While we come closer every day in achieving equality for LGBTQ people in our church, we are still far from realizing the full inclusion of all the baptized in all the sacraments when it comes to marriage. There continues to be real sadness and pain that our own pastors, who are our spiritual guides, are not permitted to fully marry us as agents of the state, as they can for heterosexual couples equally. There is a deep difference between blessing relationships and entering into a sacrament together.
I really didn't want to be part of a church that didn't want me officially. And we looked at several options, and the Episcopal Church in our hometown welcomed us with open arms.
The Episcopal Church means a lot to both of us. Alex in particular, he's a priest. It means a lot to me. I do a lot of volunteer work with the National Church.
I like the fact that the church is open to dialogue, that they're willing to be prophets, to set the bar for the rest of the Christian world.
One of the great ironies is that as we separated church and state, we nevertheless allowed religious personages, priests, ordained ministers, rabbis, and so forth, to act as agents of the state in determining who will be married and who will not. Now, civil organizations, civil entities like the state of Connecticut, the state of Massachusetts, most of the New England states, now regard marriage as a civil contract, and they have extended the right of that civil contract to gay and lesbian couples. So we find ourselves in the awkward position, at least in the Episcopal Church, of having a state like the state of Connecticut authorizing a gay marriage and yet not yet allowing the priests who act as agents of the state to perform at those weddings.
Once again, the church, instead of being on the forefront of a social justice and equity issue, we are once again, instead of being a leader, we're tiptoeing, mincing around the real issues in the guise of, in the vestments, if you will, of canons and of continuing dialogue and pronouncements of our undying equal love for our brothers and sisters, but it still looks different. And that's the bottom line. It's not a question of better or worse. It's a question of it's different, and it's time for it to be the same.
A marriage is more than a legal contract. It's a joining of souls and it's a joining of minds with common goals and aspirations. And I think to not have that be blessed by God is taking away a very large part of what marriage is all about.
It's not should there be gay marriage or not, because that's already been decided. There is gay marriage, it's happening, and people are getting married. The question is whether we will allow our priests to preside and bless. And so our choices are we going to have blessed gay marriages or unblessed gay marriages? And my hope would be that all of us, whatever position we might have had when these issues were being debated, can agree that a blessed marriage is better than an unblessed marriage.
It makes no sense to me not to have the church preside over a wedding between two people.
I've always believed in God, I haven't always believed in church. And this is the closest I've come to believing in a church. Which, for me, if I can digress a little here, is why when we weren't allowed to get married in our church, it was like someone punched me. I felt like I had been disowned by my family. I just felt so awful, so I felt like I had finally found a spiritual home where I was accepted for exactly who I was. I didn't have to hide anything. I didn't have to pretend to be anybody who I wasn't anymore. And then they said, "No, I'm sorry, you can't do that here."
And it was really important for our spiritual family to accept us and love us as we are, because our families didn't.
And they still don't.
What the frustrating part is, the idea of signing the marriage license, which, you know, is, it's tough, I think, sometimes to be, you know, part of that joyous occasion that happens for what a wedding is. But knowing that at least ours, as happy as the day it was was still some stress around it as well too. And in a way, it wasn't the same. And that was tough. That was tough.
Because I believe the church should be like Jesus was, and accept and love and invite all who may be on the fringe or may not be. And right now we're on the fringe in so very many ways, but the church needs to emulate Jesus.
What we are asking the Bishop of the Diocese of Connecticut to do is allow, under the context of the generous provision, which was a resolution passed at the last General Convention, to permit priests to solemnize or authorize or officiate at gay marriages. The difficulty is going to be that the bishop is very heavily involved in the Anglican Communion, and he may find it difficult to accept this, but I would argue that it should go forward on two grounds. The first is that the state of Connecticut is now a civil authority that recognizes gay marriage. And if the clergy in the Episcopal Church are to act as agents of the state, they should in fact act as agents of the state because the state has already accepted gay marriage. The second argument is more theological. It says that we have no theology that would oppose gay marriages, and that while it would be a courageous act on the part of the bishop, while it would put him out in front of many of the other dioceses in the country, he would not be alone. And it would be a prophetic act that while it may break certain, or at least challenge or cause tension with certain present canons of the Episcopal Church, might actually move the church closer to what I think is the just position.
Having done, as I say, at least 7 same-sex blessings, I see the wholeness that is there. I see the love. I see the commitment to live a life together in Christ that every couple has, irrespective of their sexuality. For the church to say that one is somehow different from the other, it seems to me, is standing in the way of Christ's mission of reconciliation and restoration for all individuals. Christ's mission of restoration and reconciliation extends to all the people in the church. And I think it's time for it to extend to same-sex couples as well when it comes to the way we treat marriage.
And clearly the majority of us feel that this is important to have marriage in the church available to anyone who wants it. And I can't even express how disappointing it is to me. And I love this diocese, and I've been so proud of it for decades. We've always been on the cutting edge. We've always put, you know, the skunk on the table and talked about things ad nauseum, but we've at least talked about them and kept them in front of us. And I think to be at this late date still trying to decide if this is okay is appalling. We were taught the greatest of the commandments is to love one another. Where's the love in barring some from the sacrament and allowing others? Where's the love in that?
It seems to me that we have taken a lot of time with this issue already. That's the way we do things in the church. We're very deliberate, we're very protective of our traditions, and we're very concerned about how other people will be affected, and certainly in this case, there is a very real possibility that we will offend some people who are traditionalists or people from other traditions or cultures who are part of our worldwide communion, and so that has caused us to do a lot of discernment and discussion and whatever, but personally I feel that the time has come for us to put our primary focus on the people who are most directly affected by these questions, and those people are the same-sex couples themselves. That I believe they have waited long enough for us to embrace them, to accept them as couples and to celebrate them and to fully participate in blessing their unions.
I am filled with expectation that the Diocese of Connecticut could be the next on the list to provide a general pastoral response, and joining other dioceses like Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., Central New York, just to name a few, whose clergies are not only allowed to bless our relationships, but equally marry us as full members of Christ's body.
We want to get married because we love each other, because for the same reason any straight couple wants to get married, because we want our friends to rejoice in our relationship, because we want our church to bless it.
I grew up in a very religious household. So ever since I was little, I've been in church. And that's always been impressed upon me, that a commitment between two people it's in front of people. It's important to your community, to your family and friends. And it's also a public commitment that is celebrated publicly. It's not in the back room somewhere, it's not at someone's house, which are all fine and good, but it was very important to us, especially, with Alex being in his public role as a priest and a pastor to a lot of people. We wanted to celebrate that together, commit ourselves together in a faith community that is very important to both of us, and it's also important to our friends and family. So that's one of the reasons, and one of the most important reasons for myself why we wanted to have it done.
We want to get married. We want to experience the joy that marriage and true, deep spiritual commitment to another human being on this earth gives to you. It's more than just living together. It's more than anything else that you can imagine, because you live every day with the person you love the most in the world, and the person that you just can't describe it. It's more than
And 3 little
anything.
rat dogs.
Well, they don't count. And there's just so much injustice out there in the world that this is something that we can help make right. This is something that can help, one little baby step to help make things a little more right in the world.
We need to really take a hard look, even right now, what the canons say right now, what is generous pastoral oversight? And when we're dealing with people's lives and dealing with relationships and one another, I think we need to take that into account and be really compassionate about where people are at. And that means, to me at least, equality. And I don't see how it can be anything less, especially given where we're at even in the state of Connecticut right now. Now, what would you say to our bishop?
Do the right thing.